Functional guilt, on the other hand, is a feeling that helps us build harmonious relationships with ourselves, others and the world. Simply put, there are feelings that we hear, accept and sort out, they help us grow, functional. And those feelings that block our life process, dysfunctional. The first is separation guilt. Separation is separation. This guilt arises when a person does not own and manage their autonomy and freedom. Negative feelings arise at the moment when there is a goal to do one's own thing, to move to another city, to devote oneself to one's own endeavors. But always at that moment there is a feeling of guilt saying, "What about my parents, my friends and relatives without me?" It is difficult for a person to achieve his goals, because as soon as he begins any autonomous action, immediately arise thoughts of, "How do I do the right thing?" and whether my actions will not offend people close to me. Subsequently, the life of such a person is as if put on stop, and there is dissatisfaction with himself and his life. Separation guilt can come from upbringing, when parents show hyper care and do not allow the child to make independent steps in life. During the first 9-11 months of a child's life, attachment is formed, simply put it is a bond with the mother. Then, by the age of 3, separation is formed, which indicates the formation of the process of independence. And if at one of these stages of formation of the child's personality something happens, for example, if the mother did not take an active part in his upbringing in the first 9-11 months, the child will experience fear of loss and loneliness. Or if, on the contrary, she showed excessive anxiety for the child during the formation of his independence, then growing up, he will experience fear of the outside world. All this speaks of developmental trauma. Further, it is transferred into adulthood and turns into contra-independence. It is also worth paying attention to such a cognitive distortion as owing. Owing is one of the most common forms of cognitive distortion, when we tell ourselves what we and others around us should do. This distortion is formed in childhood if we constantly hear phrases like, "You should share," "A boy should not cry," "A girl should be neat," "You are the oldest and so you should watch over the youngest and help us around the house," "You should study well and no other way," "I should help him even though I don't want to." The second is guilt for damage. When we have committed some act that has caused harm to someone, but for one reason or another we are unable to apologize and make amends in any way. Perhaps it was a very long time ago and we do not know exactly to whom we may be guilty, or if it is not possible to do so. Apparently, life has divorced you from that person a long time ago, or it happens that the person has already died, and then this guilt becomes dysfunctional, continuing to live in you and poisoning you from within, without finding its way out and resolution. This guilt is functional in itself, so you are aware of what you have done, but at the same moment it is irrational, as it stays with you for a very long time and poisons you. Third is the guilt of disloyalty. It is somewhat similar to separation guilt and consists in that when, for example, a person thinks that he or she is betraying his or her parents by choosing another profession, although they say that one should be a doctor or an engineer like them, or one begins to disagree on the choice of religion, etc. This guilt always occurs where there is a close bond between the participants. This is the way it is manipulated in any sects and cults. This feeling of guilt prevents you from realizing your goals, objectives, and views on life, because there is a feeling that you betray the people of your close group and, as a consequence, you live not your own life, but the one lived by this group. Fourth, survivor's guilt. Most often, this kind of guilt occurs when a person survived a particular situation. For example, a group of friends got into a traffic accident, and only one person survived. Subsequently, he begins to blame himself for the fact that it should have been him and not the others in their place. But survivor's guilt can also be transformed. For example, if you are very sensitive, have great empathy, you may blame yourself for the fact that some children or people are in traumatic and violent life situations. And you may feel that you are responsible for this, and thus feel guilty. After all, you are doing well and they are suffering. Or, you were promoted at work, and you know that many people who have traveled a hard and thorny path, did not get this place and, as a consequence, you blame yourself for what happened, without giving yourself a logical account of the situation. Fifth, guilt, due to the idea of scarcity. This guilt arises when it seems like having something and living well means I am doing it at the expense of someone else. And because of this, other people are feeling very bad. When it is falsely assumed that resources in the world are very limited. That I should deny myself more and sacrifice more. That if I'm getting paid a good salary, it means that somewhere and someone has cut it in my favor. That if I charge some decent amount of money for my work, then the person paying me will be in need because of me. Such dysfunctional guilt is laid down as early as childhood through commands and manipulative attitudes such as, "You eat well, dress well and get paid higher education, you have a roof over your head and expensive toys, because I am working hard, working hard. Constantly denying myself normal rest, sleep, food and just to make you feel good. And you are a naughty and ungrateful child who behaves badly and does not deserve everything that he has now. Others do not have it all, and you get everything for nothing, and you do not deserve it." Further, in adulthood, such guilt flows into a constant feeling that we do not deserve what we have and what we have achieved by our own labor. This leads to imposter syndrome, pathological perfectionism, and, as a result, constant fear of people and the world for showing our true selves. Thanks for watching.